him in the stands there. Canadian leading for the first time. They erupted with wild applause, and you could hear their cheers over the sound of the engines.
Good battle for fourth developing now as Johansson comes up to challenge Danny Sullivan. He moves to the inside. Can he get this pass done? No, Sullivan still has a full car length on him.
But did you see Tracy going right into that turn at the other long straightaway, locked up both front tires? So he's going to have to do a little slight adjustment, of which they can, on their brake balance between the front and the rear.
Once again, Tracy, when he runs on his own in the lead, is in a class by himself. Look at this gigantic lead that he has piled up in just one lap.
Paul Tracy has been spectacular here, though still not as fast as Sullivan, as we take a look at the replay of that pass for the lead. Classic instruction from driver's school as Tracy moves to the inside, takes over control of the line, and continues on into the corner.
Well, Jack talked about what they said at the drivers' meeting about blocking. Of course, Emerson did not block in any way at all. He left the door wide open. Obviously, this was a move made by prearrangement.
So the battle on the course now revolves around second, third, and fourth. Al Unser Jr. making a move on Robbie Gordon. Little Al comes to the outside, see if he can find racing room here and sweep into the corner, but Gordon has the line, though they are still very, very close. And they continue their battle. Al Unser Jr. on that very corner several years ago got in trouble as he brushed the wall and collapsed the suspension, but this time he holds off and gets around Gordon.
Now that was a good pass, but you can also tell by what Jack told us at the drivers' meeting. The guys are being a little bit more considerate of the other guys because the rule against blocking is finally going to start taking effect.
That was better than a good pass. That was sensational.
Some terrific racing here at the exhibition place, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, the site of the Canadian National Exhibition. And for the most part, as you can see back behind Little Al, the rest of the field seems to string out. So Paul Tracy is running alone at front. We look at the pass once again as he maneuvers on Robbie Gordon.
Now this is at the outside at the end of the long straightaway. Bad place to try to make a pass, but he thought he had up alongside of Robbie Gordon, so Robbie really theoretically shouldn't come over into it. But Paul, they got to really trust each other a lot to do that kind of racing.
What Little Al really accomplished by getting to the outside of the right-hander was to get in a position so he would be occupying the line for the next set of left-handers, and it worked for him. Paul Tracy at the front of the field, though Emerson Fittipaldi on the last lap, running in second place, picked up the pace of this race, ran a lap at 106.1 miles an hour. That is the fastest lap of the race thus far.
But he's doing that because right behind him is that blue car right there on your left is Danny Sullivan. Danny had a pretty good race record at this track. He likes the track. He runs fast, and you can tell that today.
So the two fastest cars on the course, Fittipaldi and Sullivan, are in a battle for second place. At the same time, Ray Hall and Johansson seem to be waiting station looking for an opportunity as they line up behind. 19 laps are complete, 103 laps the scheduled distance here at Ontario. At Toronto, on the edge of Lake Ontario.
I remember Danny Sullivan at Indianapolis in his garage. He showed me the car and he said, this is a real car. I'm going to do well with this car this year. It took him a while to get going, but you see right now he is the foremost of the Lolas threatening the Penske cars.
You get a glimpse from time to time of the grandstands here, wonderfully filled. They've had record crowds all weekend, and the weather has been absolutely beautiful. What a magnificent city to visit. A lot of good theater. Miss Saigon, Phantom all playing here. Most of the race fans and race teams have taken time out to do that. We went to the Toronto Blue Jays game against Kansas City the other night in the Sky Dome, not far from here.
Toronto succumbed in that match to the Kansas City team, and you can imagine the enthusiasm now for a Toronto-based company sponsoring this car. Danny Sullivan running so strongly in third place, and a Canadian, Paul Tracy, leading the race.
Paul Tracy this season thus far is the season lap leader. He's led 12 times for 383 laps coming into this race, the top of all driver. The problem has been converting those laps led into checkered flags. Danny Sullivan continues his pursuit of Emerson Fittipaldi from third place. Paul Tracy, after his pass of Emerson Fittipaldi, has picked up the lead and begun to drive away. We're back at the Molson Indy Toronto. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit of Akron is floating overhead, providing aerial views of this year's Indy. The Goodyear Blimp has been flying over major events now for over 60 years. Beautiful sky here today, slightly overcast. That may help tire wear. Arie Luyendyk is in the pits. In the last few seconds, he had some serious problems and was passed by several cars. Gary Gerould?
Well, we didn't have time to ascertain from the crew what the problem is, but they're making tire change now, a wing change up front, affecting the handling. That's it. He's out of here. So apparently it was just a severe vibration or a handling problem.
Gary, of course, Arie's wife, Mika, expecting twins any day now. Arie has been carrying a phone around with him, waiting for word that she might be going into labor.
I think what happened there, Sam and Paul, is he probably had a flat tire because he was running real fast. All of a sudden, he got passed by a big group of cars, so obviously he had a flat tire coming on.
He was actually locked in a fight with Teo Fabi Mansell and Mario Andretti. It was really a rotating battle for 10th place, and then all of a sudden he was offline and slowing down.
His best performance in the last few months, actually.
Let's go back to the pits and Gary.
Mike Hall, one of the key men on the managing team for Chip Ganassi's squad managing Luyendyk, says that they couldn't define a specific problem other than a severe push. They thought maybe it was a tire. That wasn't the case. Not flat. Hopefully they've made the changes that'll make it a smoother ride for Luyendyk, but he was one of the first into the pits.
At the same time, Raul Boesel continues to circle in 8th place on this track, trying to line up behind Robbie Gordon and battle with him as we watch Emerson Fittipaldi still in 2nd place, and Jack Arute has been keeping an eye on Raul. Jack?
Well, Paul, Raul Boesel is in that points chase, so he's running as conservatively as possible. The same can be said for Bobby Rahal. Qualifying third, he lost that 3rd position to Danny Sullivan, and he is right behind Sullivan as we watch Sullivan wheeling his car. Now, here's the problem for Bobby Rahal. Since moving over to the Lola, they have only been afforded, now get this, 2 full days of practice. So according to Rahal and Carl Hogan, the learning curve is still very steep for this car. So they have determined that their strategy for this race, in which they are the defending champion, lay back and don't race until the final quarter of this event.
The Rahal Hogan team, on the other hand, has been putting a lot of testing time on their other car, which is the Honda-powered machine, hoping that it will be ready for next season. Danny Sullivan still in pursuit of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi up the pace to 107.6 miles an hour as he was pressured by Sullivan. And Scott Pruitt's car into the pit area, and a display of vapor at the back of the car, which could spell the end of the day for Scott.
That looks like an engine problem, Paul, and that's a 2nd engine. That's the Chevy A engine, the oldest of the Chevrolet engines in there. 2nd one they've had a problem with this week.
Paul Tracy up behind Arie Luyendyk now, as Luyendyk in and out of the pits after that stop where they changed all the tires, and Paul Tracy is able to work his way past, but that little confrontation with Luyendyk slowed the leader down and allowed both Fittipaldi and Sullivan to close in.
Tracy has spoken of getting in a zone when he's out ahead like this, passing car after car. He feels almost invincible. He knows, of course, from his mistakes at Phoenix and Milwaukee that he is not invincible, and that he has to be more careful overtaking back markers. I know that's on his mind. He spoke to me about it yesterday. We'll see if it pays off for him today.
Of course, any mistake here at all by Paul Tracy or any other driver can send them right into the wall. It's so very close all of the way. Jack Arute, you've been watching this Penske driver.
Paul, one of the great things about working on pit road is nothing goes unnoticed by the top teams. Remember when Arie Luyendyk came into the pits? The first thing that Roger Penske, Chuck Sprague, and the rest of the crew did to Paul Tracy was let Tracy know that 2 tires were changed. They already knew, in fact, before us, that there was a vibration, so now they alerted Tracy to the possibility that tires could become an issue, saying to him, be careful when you're working race traffic.
This, of course, is a very tense situation for Fittipaldi, who, despite cutting that fast lap earlier, has slowed. You see Sullivan right behind him, and Rahal behind there, and then Johansson. They are all putting incredible pressure on Fittipaldi. Now, Fittipaldi, in the championship situation, knows that Mansell is running out of the top 10. He is in a position, if he finishes strongly, to close in on the championship. He does not want to forfeit this opportunity, but on the other hand, he's got to push hard to stay ahead of these men.
So we continue watching this battle for 2nd place, now watching from Danny Sullivan's 3rd place car.
And you know, you talk about Fittipaldi, who's right up there in the front of the screen, the red and white car. You know, Fittipaldi, as Sam was saying, has to really be careful because he's going to drive conservative because it's the points he's after. They're past the halfway point in the season. Winning a championship after you've won the Speedway is the only important thing. So Fittipaldi probably is as fast as Paul Tracy, just being a little bit more conservative right now.
And it should be noted that the last time Emerson Fittipaldi won Indianapolis, which was 1989, he went on to win the championship.
28 laps are complete. The fuel window should have been pushed back a little bit by those 2 yellow flag sessions, but not so far, and they still have to be very careful of their fuel mileage here, though that may have given everyone some breathing room.
Remember riding with Sullivan in the last laps of the race of Detroit that he went on to win. He is excellent on these tight little tracks.
The leader, Paul Tracy, car number 12, works his way around Hiro Matsushita and starts to put the entire field a lap down. Matsushita was running in 15th place, so he is carving his way up through the field. Let's go pit side again and Gary Gerould.
Paul, very frustrating day for Scott Pruitt. They blew a motor in their 2-year-old chassis this morning in the warm-up, replaced it. It was the backup engine that just let go. So 2 engines here in the course of a matter of hours. Pruitt doing a heck of a job, I think, in a 2-year-old chassis, doing a very commendable job, but no longer a chance to compete.
Fight continuing at second place, still between Fittipaldi and Danny Sullivan, and they continue to thrash at one another around the entire course. So at 29 laps of the 103 scheduled distance now complete, Paul Tracy is the second leader of the day and pulling away. This Saturday on ABC Sports, Arnold Palmer and the seniors' golf's brightest stars will shine at the Senior British Open. Coverage begins at 2 o'clock Eastern, 3 Pacific. And then back in the States, the ladies tee off in our national championship. It's the U.S. Women's Open, live at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. All Saturday on ABC Sports. We're now at lap 36 in the 103-lap run. On board, Bobby Rahal, the front of his car. He runs in 4th place and heads down the pit lane. That quick little turn on a curved pit road all the way down to the far end, and Jack Arute waits. Jack?
Paul, the first of the guaranteed front runners to make his stop. They, as we've said before, play conservative and close to the vest. He comes to a stop and they will change 4 tires and take on fuel. Just ahead of Bobby Rahal just a lap ago, Stefan Johansson came into the pits as well. It looked to be a nominal stop, only to discover that they've lost the turbo boost. Rahal is off and away in 13.8 seconds. A very quick stop. The next scheduled stops, Paul Tracy, your leader, and Emerson Fittipaldi.
So as Rahal comes back into the fight, you can see how carefully you have to join coming out of the pits and into the first corner. It's very tight down there, and Fittipaldi with a problem. Fittipaldi off the edge of the course, gets going again. What's wrong with Fittipaldi? Take a look at all 4 tires. Bobby, you can't